Wow, wow. It ain't the biggest, ain't the loudest, sure as heck ain't the one folks argue about the most. But it's the deadliest bullet in America. Year after year, it racks up the highest body count, and hardly anybody's talking about it. In 2022 alone, more than 48,000 Americans lost their lives to gun violence, and over half of those were self-inflicted. And the most common round behind it? It ain't what you're thinking. But before we roll up our sleeves and dig into this, do us a favor, click subscribe. Your support means the world to this new channel of ours. All right, let's talk about the real killer. Now, when folks picture the most dangerous guns in the country, the usual suspects pop up: the AR-15, the AK-47, the Glock 19. You see those names all over the news after some tragedy. You hear them tossed around in political debates, YouTube rants, and arguments over the Second Amendment. Big, loud, blacked-out rifles with 30-round mags, they look mean. And for a lot of folks, that's enough to get scared. But what if I told you the guns and bullets hogging all the headlines ain't the ones causing most of the deaths? We've been trained by the media, by Hollywood, by shoot 'em up video games to think that danger equals firepower. High-cap mags, military looks, big booms, that's what makes you flinch, right? Movies don't help. Bad guys dump full auto-fire into crowds, heroes shoot 45s that send fellas flying. And the little old 22? That's usually treated like a toy, maybe scare off a squirrel, tops. But in the real world, the numbers tell a different story. Most gun deaths in America don't look like a movie. They ain't mass shootings, no armor, no plate carriers, no tactical anything. They're quiet, they're personal. They happen in homes behind closed doors. Moments of despair, heated words that go too far. They don't make front-page news, but they sure fill up morgues and ER rooms every single day. Take suicide, for example. It don't come up much in gun control talk, but it should. Over half of all gun deaths in this country are folks taking their own lives. In 2022, the CDC logged more than 26,000 suicides by firearm. Compare that to about 20,000 homicides. And here's where it gets real interesting. Folks who take their own life with a gun? They ain't using ARs. They're using handguns, often in small calibers. Even when it comes to murder, a lot of the fatal shootings we see don't involve big, high-powered rounds. They're done with a gun in the sock drawer, the pistol bought at a pawn shop, the cheap revolver passed from cousin to cousin, chambered in small, cheap ammo that's easy to shoot, easy to find, and plenty lethal. It's that just-in-case gun. The one that's loaded and sitting on a nightstand, forgotten, until it ain't. So why don't we talk about it? Because we've been taught to fear looks more than reality. If it's got rails and flash hiders and black paint, it's got to be more deadly, right? If it's little and simple, it must be safer. But that's where we've got it all wrong. That false sense of safety makes small caliber guns even more dangerous. Folks underestimate them, think they'll just cause a wound, think they're fine to leave around. But truth is, lethality ain't just about caliber. It's about how often it's used, how close, and why. A .22 round fired from 2 feet away can be far deadlier than a .308 shot from 50 yards, especially if it hits something vital. While the news is busy covering mass shootings, explosions, and tactical gear, the quiet killers just keep on taking lives. Every day, every town, every state. So if it ain't the AR, ain't the 9mm, ain't the .45, what is the deadliest bullet in America? Well, the answer's plain as day. And it's been sitting in your tackle box or glove compartment this whole time. The .22 caliber round. That small, quiet little bullet folks barely think twice about. The one used for tin can shooting out back, teaching a kid to pull a trigger, or sighting in an old bolt action at the gravel pit. It's the same round you'll find in your granddad's rifle or that dusty revolver sitting forgotten in a glove box or tackle drawer. The .22 long rifle 22LR isn't just one of the most used bullets on Earth. It's also one of the oldest still in the game. First came on the scene back in 1887, and it's been going strong ever since. Every year, over 2 billion rounds get made used in everything from little pocket pistols to lever guns. You'll find it in every sporting goods store, every pawn shop, every range worth its salt. They're cheap, they're quiet, and they hardly kick at all. That's exactly why folks love them and why they end up being so dangerous. Now, don't get it twisted, this ain't about saying the 22 is evil. On paper, it's not exactly a heavy hitter. Most loads fly between 1,000 and 1,300 feet per second, with just enough juice to knock down a rabbit or a squirrel. Maybe a raccoon if you're lucky. Compared to a 9mm or a 223, it's a feather in the wind. But here's the rub, lethality ain't just about power, it's about context. And in the landscape of American gun violence, the 22 shows up everywhere. When someone hits rock bottom and makes that final choice, the gun in the drawer, the one left from Grandpa, or bought just in case, is often a 22. It feels harmless, familiar, less scary somehow. But in a moment of despair, that little round becomes something else entirely. Here's the truth most folks don't know. Even though the 22 is small, it's plenty deadly, especially up close, especially to the head or chest. It doesn't always pass clean through. More often, it bounces around inside the body, tearing through organs, shredding tissue, causing all kinds of chaos where you can't see it. It might not make much noise, but when it hits, it does the job and does it with frightening efficiency. It's the round folks reach for in all kinds of close-up shootings, especially in domestic disputes or back alley beefs. And it all comes down to one simple thing: access. The 22 is everywhere. It ain't regulated any different than a box of nails. It doesn't raise eyebrows, it doesn't look tactical, and it's dirt cheap, a box of 22. LR can run you less than lunch at a truck stop. In parts of town where folks can't drop big bucks on fancy hardware, or where someone just wants something for the house, a 22 is the go-to choice. Even pros, the kind of folks who get paid to make people disappear, have been known to favor the 22. Why? It's quiet, especially with a suppressor, and in close quarters, you don't need horsepower. You need precision. And the 22 gets the job done. Ask any ER doc in a big city or a small town, they'll tell you plain, never underestimate a 22. Victims hit with bigger rounds might come in looking like a mess, but a 22? That thing'll slip in clean, bounce around inside, and do its killing slow. It'll twist through guts, ricochet off ribs, and end up somewhere you'd never expect. And good luck finding it. That kind of internal damage is hard to fix, especially if help doesn't come fast. And yet, despite all that, folks still don't talk about the 22 in the national gun debate. Why? Simple. It ain't scary looking. It ain't showing up in mass shootings. It ain't wearing rails and flashlights and 30-round mags. It's not loud, and it sure as hell don't look like something from a war movie. But that's exactly what makes it dangerous. It's small, it's quiet, and it's deadly in the wrong hands. The 22 has become the silent killer of American gun culture, slipping under the radar, both figuratively and literally, because folks just assume it won't do much harm. But when you sit down with the numbers, when you look at the charts, read the case files, talk to the folks who've seen it firsthand, one thing becomes clear. This is the bullet that just keeps showing up in suicides, in accidents, in murders. Over and over again. Now that we've called out the .22 caliber as one of the most overlooked killers in the country, it's time to take a hard look at the numbers. But before we do, go ahead and like this video and hit that subscribe button, because what you're about to hear might just stop you in your tracks. The bullet may be small, sure, but its footprint on the national death toll is anything but. And this ain't theory or campfire hearsay, the data is cold and clear. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, there were 48,117 gun-related deaths in the United States in 2022, counting both murders and suicides. And here's the hard truth: over 57% of those were suicides. That's more than 26,000 folks who died by firearm, and that's where the 22 steps into the spotlight. Now, national stats don't always split deaths by caliber, but when you dig into law enforcement case reports, hospital records, and forensic files, one caliber keeps coming up: the 22. Especially in scenes tied to domestic violence. Why's that? Because they're easy to get. They're familiar. They don't set off alarm bells. You'll find them passed down from Grandpa, bought at a pawn shop, or just sitting quiet in a drawer. They don't kick hard, they don't sound loud, and that makes them the kind of gun someone in crisis might pick up without thinking twice. Here's another kicker. Studies show that just having a gun in the house triples the risk of suicide. And if that gun is a .22, something folks think is no big deal, the danger feels invisible. Until it ain't. Same goes for homicides. You won't always hear about it, but that same round turns up more than most realize. Sure, you've got big calibers in gang shootouts and turf wars, but a whole lot of fatal shootings, especially the kind where folks know each other, happen with small caliber handguns. Back in 2015, a study published in the Journal of Forensic Sciences found that .22 caliber guns were used in more homicides than any other caliber in several states. That included execution-style killings and up-close murders. The reason? Same as always, they're around and people underestimate them. Most folks don't think a .22 can kill. But at close range, aimed at the head, neck, or chest, that little round can do devastating damage. Even if it don't pass through, it's been known to bounce, shred, and tear inside the body, leading to injuries that are damn near impossible to fix. And then you've got the accidents, another quiet piece of the .22 story. These little guns are often used to teach folks how to shoot, or just for casual plinking in the backyard. But they're also more likely to be left loaded, left out, and handled by someone who's never had a lick of proper safety training. There's been far too many stories of kids and teens losing their lives to a .22 because someone figured it was just a little gun. Didn't lock it up. Didn't think twice. And now a life's gone. It's not that the .22 is some sneaky weapon crooks are planning around. It's just everywhere and underestimated by damn near everyone. That mix easy to find and assumed to be harmless, that's what makes it so dangerous. We've been taught to fear the loud guns, the ones with black rails and tactical lights. But truth is, most of the deaths don't come from those. They happen quietly, in living rooms, bedrooms, garages, and they happen with small bullets fired at close range, more often than not with a .22. This ain't just about what's dangerous, it's about what we think is safe. And that wrong assumption, that's the real killer. If we want to talk straight about gun violence in America, we've got to look at the whole picture. And in that picture, the .22 stands front and center, not because it's the scariest looking gun, but because it's the most overlooked threat in the whole mess. Stats are easy to rattle off, but behind every number is a real person. Somebody who hit rock bottom. And in far too many cases, the gun they reached for was a .22. One of the most heartbreaking truths? The .22 shows up time and again in domestic violence cases. It might be a hand-me-down or just a house gun in case of trouble. But when emotions boil over, it's the one that's closest, unlocked, and deadly. There was one case, a young woman who lost her life when her partner grabbed a .22 in the heat of an argument, shot her from just a few feet away. Doctors said that with a bigger caliber, she might have had a better chance. The damage would have been clearer, easier to treat. But that little bullet? It bounced around inside her chest, tore up everything it touched. And they couldn't save her. That's just one story. There's so many more. The .22 is often the gun of despair and split-second rage, not because it's sinister, but because it's there. Because folks think it won't do much harm. But that little round, for all it's quiet, has caused more pain than most folks could ever imagine. There you have it, the .22 caliber. That quiet little bullet that's a whole lot more dangerous than most folks ever figure. Ever handled a .22 yourself? Maybe plinked cans or took one out hunting small game? I'd like to hear about it. Drop your thoughts down in the comments. I read every one. And if this video made you think twice about what really drives gun violence in this country, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Join the crew, we're just getting started. Your support's what keeps this channel rolling and helps us shine a light on the things most folks overlook. Give the video a like, pass it along to a buddy, and don't forget to leave a comment. What other hidden dangers do you think we ought to dig into next? And as always, stay safe, shoot straight, and thanks for stopping by. I'll catch y'all next time.